Hello, my fellow fans of the small. I'm Laura Blair, and this is Tiny Worlds, Big Stories. Here we celebrate the artists who craft small-scale magic, miniature makers, diorama dreamers, and dollhouse designers, and uncover the stories and creativity that bring these tiny worlds to life. Whether you build tiny scenes or simply love them, welcome. Today on Tiny Worlds, Big Stories, I am thrilled to welcome Miriam Stone Wilson, a Seattle-based miniaturist whose tiny creations are bursting with imagination, storytelling, and a kind of quiet magic that draws you in. Miriam's work spans whimsical werewolf scenes, meticulously detailed public installations like Postmaster Wanda, can't wait to talk about that one, and dioramas that capture the past and present of Seattle life. From a childhood surrounded by miniature houses and careers in linguistics, social work, and teaching, Miriam brings a rich, layered perspective to her craft. Her pieces aren't just objects, they're immersive worlds, each telling a story, honoring history, or celebrating everyday heroes. Whether it's a paper-packed mailroom managed by an octopus, or a suitcase revealing the secrets of an imagined life, Miriam reminds us that the smallest details can hold the biggest stories. Prepare to be inspired by her meticulous attention to detail, her humor, and the quiet magic she weaves into every tiny universe she creates. Hello, Miriam. How are you?
Hi, Laura. I'm good. How are you?
It's so nice to connect with you, a fellow Northwesterner. Miriam's in Seattle. I'm near Portland. I grew up in Seattle. That was the first thing that attracted me to your account. But then I was just like, who is this person? So fantastic. Miriam, I want you to tell us, like, when you were a kid, did you obsess over small things? Or did this come later? Like, were you creative? All the things.
I was born obsessing over small things. Yeah, absolutely. and I was really, I was born into a family also that really appreciated miniatures. I mean, when I was 2 years old, my mom built a replica of our house. We lived in Santa Fe, and so she built.
You're kidding?
Yeah, she built it. I have a photo. I'll send it to you. But she built a replica of our adobe house, and with my bedroom, and the whole thing. So
bar was set high. It was set high from the very beginning.
And this thing was like so heavy too. I mean, she really it was so. And later in life, my dad actually built us a Barbie dollhouse. This was after we moved to the Olympic Peninsula, where I spent a bulk of my childhood.
What town?
He built us Allen, Washington. That's right near Belfair. Our school was Belfair, but yeah. It's great, beautiful area. So we lived in an area with, it was super wooded. It was just out in the middle of the woods. And so half of our time was inside playing Barbies in the dollhouse, or the other half was outside, imagining little creatures that lived magically around us. And often we incorporated our dolls into that too. So we were like, our Barbies were so
my Barbies went camping. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, in the Northwest, you just go hiking and you take your Barbies in your backpack. That's what I did.
That's right.
Yeah, I love that. What a wonderful thing. And your parents were both creative. And so you kind of had it from the get-go. What did you study? Did you study something completely different, or was it always creative?
So I always had some art classes. I intended to have like a minor in art, but it never worked out for me to actually do that. But I had a lot of art classes. But what I studied, I got my BA in Spanish language and literature, and then a master's in linguistics, focusing on Spanish linguistics and neuro-linguistics. And then I got another master's in social work. So I've been a Spanish teacher. I've been a therapist for just briefly, but I was a therapist for a while. And I've had a lot of different,
I can see where all of these things contributed to what you're doing now, though. I mean, these worlds that you're building, it makes a lot of sense to me, especially the therapy part. Yeah, because your stuff has meaning. Your work has meaning.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it really does. And I want to start with Wanda because she's pretty famous. And I want you to tell us kind of how did you think of that? How did it start? And explain it for those of us, if you're not watching on YouTube, which you should be because all the pictures are on there. But if you're listening to it, like driving in your car or whatever, I'm going to have Miriam explain what this amazing piece of art is.
So Wanda is an octopus and a postmaster. She heads up a mailroom that's one of thousands of mailrooms in a portal in a parcel locker that's somewhere in Seattle. So now let me back up to explain what that means. So about a year ago, a friend of mine wanted to do something nice for his wife and his neighborhood. And as a gift to his wife, he wanted to create a spot of sidewalk joy in his neighborhood. And so they had a parcel locker, like one of those mailboxes that you see in neighborhoods that had been broken for years. So the portion where packages would go in, the door had been ripped off and it wasn't replaced. And this parcel locker was still accommodating the neighborhood. It was a space that was basically unused. And so he was like, "Hey, I have an idea. What if we make it just a little miniature scene in this parcel locker?" And another one of my passions is the postal service, letter writing, stamps, and I've had pen pals, and I like to do a lot of like creative like exchanges with making letter art and all that. Anyway, it's one of my other things I'm really interested in. So I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I wanted to make it kind of as like a tribute to the post office, to USPS and the workers.
They don't get much love, so that's pretty great that you
Yeah. People are frustrated with them all the time. But so I came up with this idea of an octopus who is tasked with doing all these different things in a mailroom with each one of her arms. And I built a diorama that on one side is a mailroom with lots of little packages and letters and posters and everything that you would find in a USPS mailroom, which I had to imagine because you're not allowed to visit them. They're pretty strict about this. It's top secret. Well, you're allowed. I think you're not allowed to go take pictures. That's what,
Well, it's
because for
federal. I get
privacy.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I did go down to the post office and and I'm not sure actually if you're even allowed to do this, but people were really nice to me because I went down there and I was like taking pictures of everything, taking pictures of posters and trying to get a feel for the space. And I was able to like just get a lot of inspiration from being at the post office. And so I divided this diorama into a hallway that's filled with post office boxes that you would see like if you were going to your box, the consumer side. And I used an infinity mirror illusion so that when you turn on a light, it looks like the hallway goes on forever. And then on the other side, you see the mailroom, and then there's a door, and the mailroom is number 113400. It's just to imply that there are thousands of these mailrooms in order. So Wanda's realm is this mailroom, and she's got a Snickers in one hand, a Sharpie in another. She has a cup of tea, and then she's got packages.
It is the most delightful piece of public art I've ever seen. And I
Oh,
wish I'd seen it in person. But I'm going
oh,
to see it in
thank
person. I'm
you.
coming up, making a pilgrimage to Wanda. I I want so you're a storyteller. I mean, obviously, you really love to tell stories with your scenes and like your Seattle boxes, which I totally identify with because as a kid from the 80s and living in the 90s, at home you've got these boxes that are so detailed and the Chihuly thing on the ceiling, like you have all the references from where we live. And I just think it's so special and unique. And so how did you get, so did the news come out? I mean, King 5, like they came out to see your space and to interview you in your space, but then they wanted to go see the box. How did that come about? Did they call you? Did they find you?
They did. They found me just through social media. So the video that I made that was about Postmaster Wanda got a lot of traction, and people really liked it. So someone contacted me and was like, "Hey, would you like to, talk about what you do on evening?" It was King 5 evening. And they were so nice, and they came out here, and like it was like really just so special to be able to share that with people.
Well, they honored
And
what you did.
they did such a wonderful job of just really, yeah. So
So that was huge to be able to have people
it
see what
was.
you were doing. And when you do these pieces, you did the commission for this guy, but you do them for you a lot of times just at home, right?
Yeah.
It's for you. Do you take commissions still?
Do a little bit. It's commissions are a little tricky because
I know.
it's it puts a kind of it puts a pressure on that I'm still kind of trying to wrestle with how to really stay in touch with like my creative vision when someone else is telling me what they would like. But I do. I mean, it's kind of a sort of a case by case sort of if so, like when I made the Seattle box, which I call "Lucky to Have Met You," based on a line from a Nirvana song, and the box, if I'll just give a little rundown of what it actually is. It's a single dwelling in Seattle that's divided in half over 2 time periods. So there's Seattle in the 90s and Seattle in current day. And I made it that way to highlight the changes that have happened in the city over the past 30 some years. And this was part of a show put on by Vanishing Seattle. So there was a theme to the show of the sort of the way that Seattle has transformed, the things that we've lost and gained. And so that prompt was in mind when I made this. I can't remember why I started that. What was your question?
Was it before the Vanishing Show, or did you make it for the Vanishing Show?
I made it for the Vanishing Show.
Was that like
Yeah,
a public
yeah.
people got to go see it and
Yeah, so the show was at Bumbershoot, which is, for people who don't know, it's a huge arts and music festival in Seattle that happens every year, and it's been going on since the 70s. And so it happened at the A&T Gallery, and there were about 60 different artists from Seattle, and it was an amazing show because it was everyone who just really loved Seattle and and was showing what Seattle meant to them.
that's such
So
a cool thing. I got to go see that. They do it every year?
this was a one-off, but they do have, I think Vanishing Seattle on the website has like you can go and see the people that showed at this show. I mean, you can
Did you
see the
get to
art.
watch people's reactions? Did you get to see like what people were doing when they looked at your work? Can you
Yes, that was
kind of creep in
amazing.
the background and look and see what people were
I was the biggest creeper. I was like around the corner, like, because you don't usually get to see that. You don't usually get to see. I mean, a lot of what I share is on social media, so I get feedback from people, but it's not the same as like
So
creeping and seeing.
I want to know what they
Well,
are saying.
I mean, one thing about miniatures is that, which I love, and I've said this before, but they draw you in, because you really have to get up and you have to like get in there to see. So you you would see, I mean, so it was just really fun to see people come up and like something would catch their eye, and then they would, they like really
And you're
honing
talking to
in.
Seattleites here, so they recognize the stuff that's in the scene, and that's huge.
And yeah. And because like the side of the diorama that's the wall is plastered with flyers from different shows and cultural events, and so there's a lot of shows that anyone who's been around for a while that was active in the music scene in the 90s, like has probably had been to one of the shows that was on the wall. Um,
That's so cool.
the research process for finding all of those flyers was another just like amazing
Do you love
experience.
that part? Do you love that part? Looking at all the stuff to make a diorama, to make a scene?
I love it. I mean, I think
So when you're coming up with ideas, do you take an object and look at it and think about it? Do you take a concept, or is it kind of a little bit of everything?
a little bit of everything, but I mean, it really starts with an idea that lights up my brain, and then I do a deep dive, and if it keeps a deep dive like on research, and if it keeps lighting my brain up, then I take it further and further, and then I start building. But almost everything I do starts with a lot of research and and a lot of a focus on details that are often missed in when we look at things in a big picture.
I think that's what makes your stuff so special. I really do. I mean, I'm thinking about it now, and some of those tiny, tiny little things that not everybody notices, that's what makes it so magical for sure. Like your libraries that you did at the Mount Vernon Library, the two, oh my gosh. I mean, people must be kids, and it's low, so kids can see it, right? Because it's low on the bottom.
Yeah.
The delight, I can't even imagine. What kind of feedback have you gotten from that? It's so cool.
Well, and that was just during the month of October, so it's not there anymore. But when it was there, the librarian was telling me that it was like it was so cool to just watch the kids come up and notice, and and it, I made it again. It's a diorama that's in 2 parts, and it's the identical room, but there are differences. So it's kind of a spot the differences type diorama. So like I think kids especially like that because it's fun to notice, kind of like the highlights magazine. What's different from.
I remember those in the dentist's
You remember
office.
that? Yeah.
So with these public displays and these really cool things that you get to do out in the world, what advice do you have for someone who might want to do something like that? Do they want to either at the library or on their street or whatever? I mean, I know there are also sometimes legality. There's some things about public art. Have you learned anything about that kind of stuff in the last few years?
Well, just, I learned a lot about how the USPS does not condone using parcel lockers, although for anything other than parcels. But I also learned, like, if you do it in a way that, like, is sort of a tribute to USPS and the mail carrier thinks it's cool, maybe no one will report it. So.
Smart, Miriam. Smart. I love it. That's great. Oh, I can imagine that mail carrier just loves that. He must have thought that was, or she must have thought that was
Apparently,
amazing.
yeah, apparently so. I think that was, my friend has given me some feedback about that too. So.
And the library was that something that they said invited people, or did you seek that out?
They contacted me for that. I have a lot of friends who are miniaturists or artists who have contacted libraries. A lot of time, libraries are really open to displaying people's art from the community. So libraries are actually a really wonderful way to, if you want to share your art with the world, to contact and make an arrangement. That experience inspired me to maybe do some more.
You're reaching a big audience there because lots of different people use the library. And kids, oh my gosh, kids they must gravitate towards your stuff so much. Oh, I love that. Okay, so how do you decide when something's finished? Because you do have so many details in your work. When do you get to the point where you go, okay, I'm not going to touch this anymore. This is done.
That's a great question. That's a really great question for a miniaturist, actually, because details and details, you can always add more details. So, yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that. I guess looking back, a lot of, it just feels right when the picture kind of comes together and tells the story you're trying to tell. Sometimes it's a deadline.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes you're like, it's good enough for the deadline. Yeah. Sometimes I think you just know when it tells the story.
Your suitcases. Is that a metaphor for something, or is that just an object you love to make?
Both. Yeah, but I love suitcases because they're sort of like a little diorama. They're just like, a little, like you can tell so much about someone by what's in their suitcase. And so as a medium for storytelling, they work so well. So, I've created a lot of different suitcases that belong to an invented character, and then I've also made suitcases that are meant maybe as like an acknowledgement of someone's accomplishments, or a talisman, or like token of encouragement. So yeah, they're so versatile. They're so versatile and really, yeah.
You share a lot of your process online. So you have Tutorial Tuesday, which I love.
Yeah.
So definitely learn some things from you on that. But what made you want to kind of let people behind the curtain and see what's going on? And what do you love about teaching? Like, what has that done? Is it been a year you've been doing that, Tutorial Tuesday, or longer?
Yeah. I started the past year, this past year, and around the middle of the year, and I was able to put out 10 episodes. That was my goal. I just made, like, the last episode was like the end of December, so I just made it.
Gotta do it.
I got it. But the reason I do that is because so much of the techniques and skills that I've developed have been because people will share their own processes and what they're experimenting with, what they've learned, and that's something I love about the miniature community too, is that
Everybody says that. It's such a great, generous community.
it really is so generous. Yeah. And so it's just my way of kind of paying it forward.
Who have you learned from along the way? Like, who have you kind of looked up to in terms of the miniature community over the years?
Oh, there's so many people. My gosh. There's so many people. I don't want to name just one. I might have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, and we have our people that we always go to, kind of for the similar techniques. I sure have a couple that I'm always like, what are they doing now? How long have you been doing it though? I don't even know like how long you've been actually in earnest sitting at your table making these amazing details. How long's it been?
Well, like when did I start actually making miniatures? Yeah. So it's been about 11 or 12 years since I started actually um building like 1/12 scale miniatures. I started with a witch cottage that I called Mrs. Witch's cottage. And it was Mrs. Witch was a big figure in my childhood because she was so when I was 5 years old, my dad got sober. He had really struggled with alcoholism, and he managed to get sober and really show up as a dad when I was 5 and maintain that for the rest of his life. But he, from that point forward, every single night he would tell me and my sister a bedtime story based on this character, Mrs. Witch. And she lived, and this is when we lived in Allen on the Olympic Peninsula. She was this nice old lady that lived in a cottage just across the lake, and the two little girls, Mamushka and Katushka, Miriam and Katie, would go and visit her, and she would take them on magical adventures. So so when I decided to make Mrs. Witch's cottage, I was like, this is so like I always wanted to somehow commemorate what my dad did, and also and also like my mom was able to like tough it out through those difficult like
What a way to
years.
honor your dad though. That's so cool. I'm assuming he saw this. He's seen this.
He did, yeah. And he passed away 10 years ago. So he was able to see that before he died, and he thought it was really cool.
I
But
bet.
yeah.
So you went from that and then you just started other stories. The stories just kept coming.
Just start, yeah. But I was one of those pandemic passion project people that when the pandemic hit and suddenly we're all, we had like a lot of us had a lot of extra time and we were inside and we needed, something to do. That's when I really started spending hours a day just, yeah, just making stuff.
It shows in your work too. I mean, 10 to 11 years. I mean, that's a long time to hone the detailed kind of skills. Is there a technique that you love more than the other ones? Is there one you always kind of go back to?
I think my two most favorite are, well, woodworking. I still have so much to learn. I mean, I would never call myself a carpenter at this stage, but I love learning about woodworking in miniature. I have a lathe that I play around with. I have a few different saws, and that's always still a challenge for me that I really enjoy. And the other thing that I really enjoy is like paper crafting, doing a lot of little details in paper.
Paper's hard to work with. I mean, I haven't worked with it a lot, but just, cutting it and getting it straight and all the little things that you do, like, because you incorporate a lot of that, like with your packages, like you did with the Wanda piece. And I mean, that's all paper, correct?
Yeah, it's all paper. It's a lot of paper. Yeah. And I stuck in because it was also because it's something that is outside. I stuck in those little like desiccant packets in between the letters and they look like little mail packets. So I stuck in little desiccant packets all through the.
That's so cool. So what do you wish people understood about the time and the thought that it takes to make something like the things that you make?
Yeah. It's funny because I think if you've never made miniatures before, you might assume that it's just that it doesn't take very long because it's smaller. But it actually often, like if you're making a large thing or a small thing, let me back up. If you're trying to replicate in miniature a life-size object, it often takes so much longer because you have to not just figure out how to build this object, but how to do it in a realistic way with usually different materials from the life-size object. So a lot of the challenge is in finding materials that mimic the life-size object in at scale. So the- that that's a time-consuming piece on its own. And anyone will tell you, like making a package, a mail package, that might take an hour to fold up a box appropriately when, if you're just in life size, if you take a cardboard box and fold it, it takes you a minute. But when you do it in miniature and getting all the details of what I would like people to understand is that miniatures are very time consuming. And so if you love it, you can pour yourself into it. And also, if someone sells a piece of miniature art, there's usually no way in the world they could charge an hourly rate and still, so, because something that it might take you 10 hours to build. There's no way that, well, yeah, I mean, that varies, of course, but
So when people ask you what you do for a living, what do you say?
I say I'm a miniaturist and diorama artist.
Then they go,
And
tell me more. Tell me more. The cool people say that.
other people are like, you play with dolls? You're how old?
What? You play with dollhouses?
And actually, I don't play with dolls because dolls scare me.
Yeah, I don't like dolls either. I don't put them in my houses either. Have you ever thought about like going to a show and having like selling your stuff, or because I mean some miniature artists like they make one and they're done and they don't want to make more than one of something. What's kind of where you stand on that in terms of possible selling things?
I love to go to show. I've only actually been to the Seattle Miniature Show. I've never been to another miniature show, but it was so much fun to go and see all of the different things. I don't think that it would be my scene to actually set up a table and be there. I think I would get overwhelmed, number one, because it's so much. It's so much. There's so much going on. And two, just because I guess I am more of a one and done type artist. It's more, but that might change. I mean, that might change
Yeah.
depending on if I could find a way to make items that would like really continue to light up my brain that would sustain my interest, so it wasn't just producing several of the same object. That's
Do you 3D print and laser print as well? Do you use both?
Those are new things that I'm learning right now. I just got a 3D printer and I'm having so much fun. I just have one thing here that I just made. I made thing.
It does open up a lot of worlds, doesn't it? I'm finding that myself. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Super fun.
And I'm about to actually I have a laser cutter coming in the mail. So that's another thing I'm gonna learn.
Playtime. Yeah.
I made this little unicycle and I haven't glued the pedals on.
That's fantastic. Hey, nice paint job on that. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Wow. What scale is that?
It's just 1/12 scale. Although it's kind of big, but it is what 1/12. Yeah.
How fun.
Thank you.
And so just all the process of like, it's different, isn't it? 'Cause you got to sand it and you got to get it to smooth out and then paint it. And there's a lot of technique to it for sure.
I love the idea of 3D printing I mean, you can use 3D printing for so many different things, but I love it as like a primary material source that you then like expand on, like which is I mean, and I'm learning a lot of techniques on how to actually do that with the sanding and the painting and the different flocking and things like that.
Do you spend hours on YouTube like yours truly watching stuff?
Oh yeah.
There are a lot of good ones. What do you think is the hardest part about being an artist right now in these times?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that right now we're in a tumultuous period of history, and it's hard to it would be easy, depending on where you live, to not acknowledge a lot of the suffering that's happening in the world right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's important with art and being an artist to acknowledge, but also not stop doing the things that bring you joy as an artist. I think it's important I'm trying to find the words to express what I'm trying to say.
I guess you could think about what does art do for the world that would be missing if you didn't do it?
Right. I think creating art is, for me, and I know for so many people, it's a source of joy in the world. And it's a way to process what's going on inside of you and what's going on in the world. And creativity sustains us.
There you go.
Creativity, and if we ignore, like I've seen people saying, how can you share art online when all these things are happening in the world? And I think it's essential right now. I mean, it's always essential, but right now it's essential to be building the worlds
Yeah.
that we want to live in.
And you're literally building those worlds in boxes, which is like the coolest thing ever. I just want to hang from that Chihuly chandelier, man. Well, and the other thing for you, I mean, Miriam, you're so funny, and your humor is very similar to mine. So that's probably one of the reasons I was attracted to your account. Just the funny stuff that you mention, and the funny songs that you use. And right now, even though the world is falling apart, we do need moments of laughter and lightness. And I think I go online looking for that, and your account made me stop and go, this is really delightful. Frankly, I just need a little bit of delight here and there. And I think a lot of people do, so thank you for that. Thank you for putting that out into the world, and your little scenes that just bring people come upon them and they stop. Like you said, they get close, they look at the details, they slow down. I think miniatures make you slow down, and you are very gifted at creating scenes that make us
Thank
want to
you.
stop. Well, it's a gift. What do you do when your motivation dips? Do you ever have times when you're like, I don't want to go in the studio? Are you always excited to go in the studio?
Yeah. Well, I'm almost always excited to go to the studio, but I definitely have, it ebbs and flows in terms of, sometimes there are periods of frustration where nothing seems to work, and sometimes I'm just too tired, or like I just spent like 10 weeks ago, I had surgery. And so a bulk of that time I wasn't able to get into the studio because I was recovering. So yeah, coming back, it's just been the past week really that I'm back in the studio, and just really, I'm like, oh,
It's your
I
happy
can
place.
feel, yeah, I can feel it. It's therapeutic. It really is for me. It's therapeutic to be able to, and and man, it's not lost on me that it's an incredible privilege to be able to spend a chunk of time every day doing creative work, because I know a lot of people who would love to be able to, and
That's really true. Has your relationship with your creativity changed over time? Have you kind of given yourself more time, with it? I don't know, in terms of your life, how things have gone, having less time to do stuff. How has that changed for you over the years?
well, uh, I'm a mom, and I have two kids who are 13 and 17, and it was really difficult to find that time to be creative, and like really sit with my process uninterrupted, for more than for more than a nap at a time, which I'm someone that needs, like 5 hours of like of uninterrupted time to really get into the mode. And so it wasn't really until uh, that shifted, where my kids were independent enough that they didn't need me to be mm, present all the time, right? So it's really just been a few years that I've been able to cultivate that relationship with my creative work. And it's really just been a few years that, because of the time commitment that I've been able to put into this work, that I've started calling myself an artist. Before, I called myself artistic, or a hobbyist, or, and it's funny because some people have taken issue with that. They're like, "You've always been an artist." But I don't believe I have always been an artist. I think that now that I'm actually putting in the blood, sweat, and
The
tears,
commitment.
the commitment that I feel for myself, I feel like that now I call myself an artist.
Do your kids love it? Do your kids come in and say, what you working
Yes,
on?
they are wonderful. Are like they're always, even if they don't love it, they will patiently let me show them what I'm working on. And my
That's a
husband
great
too.
skill.
Yeah, for real. They've been so supportive, and happy wife, happy life, I guess. I'm so much happier. And I think that,
Yeah, that's where we live as well, man. Is there a tiny world that you have not built yet that you've thought about building?
well, there is a huge project that I have been working on, that I've started building but is still in process. That I don't know if you'd like, I can share a little bit about that.
Please, please.
Okay. Well, it's called the Warehouse, and you might have if you've seen on my Instagram, I mentioned in my bio that I'm retelling the story of Red Riding Hood and
Yes.
the Big Bad Wolf. And and in my retelling, this is the story of a little girl who was eaten by the wolf and emerged a werewolf and lived with this werewolf in her. And now she's a perimenopausal woman, and she's a perimenopausal werewolf, and she's coming to terms with this transformation. So
That's just fantastic. Fantastic, Miriam.
I'm trying not to be to be really like overwrought with the with how I'm telling this story, because I'm using like a Jungian framework of spiritual alchemy. It each room, so it's a dollhouse. And each room of the dollhouse is dedicated to a different alchemical stage of transformation.
My goodness, really?
The destruction of the prime material, the calcination stage in the kitchen, where everything is just burnt, and then elements start coming together in each room. So
Wow, I can't wait to see that. When are you going to finish it, do you think? I've got to see it.
Oh, I don't know. I keep wanting to. Yeah. And I keep wondering, maybe I should just kind of reimagine this as a series of boxes, because it would be so fun to be able to share it on a gallery wall. I think it would be. So I might start sort of a rebuilding process with that. But that is my big project, and it's such a personal project, sort of the house as a reflection of the soul, transformation, integration, trauma, perimenopause, all the stuff, using Red Riding Hood as my character.
And what a great way to tell the story. You know, it's because a lot of us who are so visual, and a lot of us who've been through all those stages can
Right.
visualize what that all that's great. I hope you do display that somewhere. I hope if someone would pick that up and show that as a show. I mean,
I would love to share it with the world when it's ready. I really I think that a lot of people will be able to identify it, just because, I mean, we are so lucky to be the age we are in this time period, because I think it's like the first time in our sort of, this civilization that that there's an openness to talk about this hormonal transformation at this stage of life.
it's taken a long
Whereas
time.
like, yeah. Our moms, everyone went through it blind.
Well, yeah, none of them knew what was going on. They didn't have a dollhouse to direct them to what was going on with these stage. So, do you have a hard time like balancing like the big Whopper project and then some of your smaller stuff? Like you're doing your tutorial Tuesdays and you're doing your suitcases. How do you balance that?
I just kind of, I honestly, I kind of just float through whatever grabs me is what I focus on. That's sort of just my style. It's like what feels right to be focusing on is kind of how I do it. But so I never see it as a challenge to juggle those things. It's just sort of like what feels right now. And like now it's time for me to go back to the dollhouse. It's time for me to share something that I'm working on, or show some cool technique that I just learned and want to share with other people, or
Go with
so
your
it's
gut, the studio gut. That's good.
studio gut.
So if someone's feeling intimidated, they starting something like this, and they look at all the materials and all the tools and the cost, and where should they start? If they're intrigued and they love it, where do they start?
Oh man, this is the beauty of miniatures, because you could spend thousands, or you could just use your recycling
Hmm.
and get some glue, get some scissors. You have a vision, you can do it. So it's such an accessible field or craft, or medium, because it's really like, it's all about your imagination and experimenting with what you have. And I think, as far as learning how to do things, learning techniques in art, making things as a creative person, the biggest indicator of whether you're growing is how many mistakes you're making. Because if you're not making mistakes. You're not taking risks. Nobody ever gets things perfect I mean, maybe every once in a while you luck out, but people don't start out perfect. You have to make mistakes and stay in that mistakes mindset. At least in the like fail forward mindset. Which that for me is one of my driving forces, and it encourages me every time that I feel like something isn't working out. I remind myself that like, well, this is part of the process. This is part of the process.
I think that's how people stop. People stop because they just don't feel like they're ever going to get it. That's what's so great about recycled materials, because you can practice, and it doesn't cost you anything. Fail forward with your recycling bin.
Right.
I mean, yeah, that's really good advice. What does success look like for you right now on this day, in this moment? What does success look like?
Well, I mean, like honestly, in this moment, talking to you, this feels like success because, like,
me too.
just
Me too.
being able to connect with people on and sharing something that I love. That's probably
That's wonderful. Thank you.
No, I'm not trying to charm you or something either.
It's finding your people, Miriam. It's finding your
really
people. Is. Yeah,
it's such a gift to be able to.
And how cool you're so close. We're going to have a hobby day for sure. Okay, my last question is my favorite question. And this is, what did little Miriam love that grown-up Miriam finally gets to honor through this work?
Wow. There's magic everywhere in the world if you look for it. And as a little girl, I found it everywhere. I mean, we were convinced that, that the elves had come and played with our toys that we left outside. We were convinced that, like, little people lived in the woods with us. And then somewhere between 11 and 39, stopped really like spending time with the belief that there's magic in the world. And I don't just mean magic in the form of, other creatures that live on a different realm in our world. I mean magic in a, whatever magic means to you sense. And now being able to honor that is really, it's sort of like the soul of what I spend my time doing.
I would be really, really happy for you. Very happy and very proud of you in Allen. I think she would.
I'm a grown-up that like plays with toys all day.
Yeah. Well, and making them's another whole thing. Being able to do that, to have the skills that you've cultivated for a long time now. Give yourself credit. It's a lot of skills. You have to learn to do this stuff, and you're dedicated. A dedicated artist. Yeah, that's great.
Can I tell you the first miniature that I ever made?
Please.
This was when I was, I was probably 7 years old. And I found my mom's maxi pads, and they were the perfect size for a Barbie bed. And I had no idea what a maxi pad was. But she got so mad when she found that I had like made beds for all the Barbies using her maxi pads.
She didn't find that really cute and clever. Not at all. Not in the slightest.
She got mad in a kind of way.
The women on the other side of my family call them mouse mattresses, so that kind of fits. Mouse mattress.
So yeah. That's unconventional materials. Just maybe ask your mom first.
Do you go through the world looking at stuff through the eyes of a miniaturist? Like when you go to Home Depot or dollar store or whatever? Because I'm finding everything looks like it's got potential.
Yes, that's so true. It's so much fun to, like, I love going to the hardware store.
It's my favorite art store.
Yes, I know. Yeah. All the little washers and the, just finding different uses for materials, using them as a different way from what they were intended. In fact,
yeah, it's kind of a fun way to go through life.
It really is. It really is. Last night, my son did a sleep study, and so we spent the night at a clinic, and he was covered in wires. In the morning, when the nurse was removing all the wires, I was like, "Hey, do you mind if I take those home? Because they just throw them out." I was like, because I'm a miniaturist, and like those look like little colorful bottles, and like I can.
That makes me feel better that someone asked that, because that's the kind of stuff I think my kids are just mortified half the time when I do stuff like that.
It's like taking the garbage home.
No waste. No waste. That's great. Right. Oh my gosh. Well, where can everybody find you online? All the places.
I spend most of my time probably on Instagram at miniature werewolf. And then I also have a website that's miniaturewerewolf.com. And I'm also on YouTube under Miniature Werewolf and TikTok, although I don't spend a lot of time over there. So most of my content is on Instagram.
I will put all of that in the show notes. And are you going to the Seattle Miniature Show this year?
I am. I'm so excited.
I will see you there.
Great. I can't wait.
And thanks for the joy and the fun and all the things you put out into this world that needs it, and for being open to sharing your story and all the good things. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much,
Me too,
Miriam.
Laura. Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure.
Same here. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
If you loved this episode, make sure you're subscribed on Apple or Spotify podcasts or the YouTube channel so you don't miss the stories and wisdom these incredible artists share. I'd love to see you inside my newsletter, Small by Design. On YouTube, just tap the link in the description. On Apple Podcasts, scroll to the bottom of the show notes. You can follow along on Instagram at Laura Blair Art Studio for my art and at Tiny Worlds Big Stories for podcast updates. If you're feeling generous, a 5-star rating helps other miniature fans find the show. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time in another tiny world with a big story.